My wife's coworker humiliated me. In front of everyone. What happened next changed everything. It was supposed to be a perfect night. One of those evenings where everything feels carefully planned and emotionally important. Especially when it's not just a gathering but a moment where impressions matter. My wife had been preparing for this party 4 days, making sure every detail was right, from the setup to the guest list. Because these weren't just random people, these were her coworkers. The people she spent most of her time with. The people whose opinions quietly carried weight in her life. I could see how much this night meant to her. And that's why I made sure to show up as my best self, staying supportive, calm, and present. Even though something in the back of my mind felt slightly uneasy. At first, everything went exactly how you'd expect. Guests arrived with polite smiles. Conversations flowed. Laughter filled the room, and for a moment, it really did feel like a perfect night. But then he walked in, and without saying anything obvious, he brought a kind of energy that didn't sit right with me. It wasn't loud or aggressive at first, it was subtle, hidden behind confidence and a smirk that felt just a little too intentional. I tried to ignore it, telling myself I might be overthinking. But as the night went on, I started noticing the small things. The way he spoke, the way he looked at me, the way others reacted around him, like they were expecting something. And then, slowly, it became clear that this wasn't just in my head. In the middle of the room, surrounded by people, he started making comments, small at first, almost like jokes, but each one carrying a tone that felt more like disrespect than humor. I stayed calm, choosing silence over reaction, because the last thing I wanted was to ruin my wife's night. But the atmosphere had already changed. People were watching now, some hiding their smiles, others pretending not to notice, and in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't accidental. He was testing me, pushing boundaries, seeing how far he could go in front of everyone. And the worst part wasn't even what he said. It was the way the room reacted, like they were waiting for me to break. I glanced at my wife, hoping she'd step in, but she seemed caught off guard, unsure of what to do. So I stood there, holding my composure, letting the moment stretch just long enough for everyone to think I would stay quiet. But deep down, something had already shifted inside me, something they couldn't see yet. Because silence doesn't always mean weakness. Sometimes, it's just the calm before everything changes. For a few seconds, I let the silence settle. Not because I didn't have a response, but because I wanted to see just how far he was willing to go. There's a moment in situations like this where everything slows down. The noise fades. The laughter becomes distant. And all you can really feel is the tension building in the air. He took my silence as weakness. I could see it in the way his confidence grew, in the way his voice got just a little louder, just a little sharper. Like he believed he had already won something that hadn't even started yet. A few people exchanged looks, some trying to hide their reactions, others leaning in slightly, as if they didn't want to miss what was about to happen next. And that's when it hit me, this wasn't just about him anymore. This had turned into a moment, a silent stage where everyone was watching to see how I would respond. What kind of man I really was when pushed in front of a room full of strangers. I took a slow breath, keeping my expression steady, refusing to give him the reaction he clearly wanted. Because the truth is, reacting too quickly would have only played into his hands. People like him feed off immediate emotion. They expect anger. They expect defensiveness. They expect you to lose control so they can justify their behavior. But I wasn't going to give him that. Not here, not in front of everyone. Instead, I let him finish. Let his words hang in the air, just long enough for their weight to settle across the room. And in that pause, something shifted. The same people who were quietly amused just moments ago began to sense that this wasn't going the way they expected. The energy changed subtle, but real. Because confidence doesn't always come from being loud. Sometimes, it comes from knowing exactly when to speak. I finally looked at him directly. Not with anger, not with frustration, but with a calmness that made him hesitate for just a second. And that second was enough. Enough to break the rhythm he thought he controlled. Enough to make him realize that maybe, just maybe, he had